Hi, Frankie. It's Bud. Welcome to Eugene.
Thank you.
On this question of population, you had mentioned in your presentation Kerala, and that's a really powerful example of how important it is to address the population problem by empowering women and educating them, giving them economic opportunities. So maybe you want to talk about that sometime too. But my question of you is this. I'm looking for some rays of hope from you on the question of global terrorism, religious fundamentalism, international chauvinism, all those things that are basically constructed into politics of fear that operate around the globe now, and is no less in America than elsewhere. What can you offer us in terms of dealing with that creatively, productively, differently than militarily? Where is there hope in resolving this global issue?
Well, in getting a grip, I don't devote a lot of my attention to this as a separate issue. I rather weave it into one of the symptoms of a mindset that has created a social, economic, and political structure that is so malaligned with our nature that it does not give us meaning, and in fact it violates our need for meaning, and it is so demeaning that it is no surprise, I don't think many of you are too, I mean I would imagine you share this feeling, that it is not surprising that people then find meaning through the most horrific ways of lashing out and destroying, because as we know, if people cannot create, we have to, as Eric Fromm has put it, you know, that we are creatures who must make a dent. We are doers, and if we can't do in a creative way, we will do by destruction. And so I really don't see any shortcut to the dealing with, to dissolving the roots of terrorism, short of the kinds of things we're talking more generally about tonight, which is shifting the frame from this notion of a one rule, from a notion of scarcity that then leads to the sense of disempowerment, that leads to a one rule economy that concentrates wealth so much that the people who could all fit into this room here control as much wealth as half the world's population. And that creates such a sense of hopelessness and sense of being demeaned that terrorism will just keep escalating until we go to that root. So I don't think it's a separate issue. That's my personal view. It is interwoven in everything we're talking about. And it's evidence, maybe the ultimate evidence, of how malaligned with our nature is the social structure that we're living within right now. Thank you. And in the back?
Yes, you mentioned a country that, through its own process, decided not to use GMO cotton.
Yeah.
Did you say Mali as the country in Africa, or Bali in Indonesia?
Thank you. Maybe my Texas accent, not pronouncing Mali, as in the girl's name, Mali. Yeah, and you know, the truth is, I do not know, maybe somebody knows here, I saw, I want to tell you, though, and as I answer that, if any of you want a big lift, a big positive lift, there is a set of DVDs you can order from the International Institute for Environment and Development that were created by illiterate Indian women in Andhra Pradesh in India, and they include a film of this citizens jury in Mali where small and large farmers came together and made this choice, and many other things about how these farmers in their community in Andhra Pradesh are standing up to Monsanto and creating genuine food security and returning to diversified farming and their own food safety nets as well. So I can tell you, I think it'd be wonderful to have, especially if any of you, of course here in the university, if the rest of you are educators elsewhere, it's just a wonderful tool because it's all created by illiterate Indian women and the very high production values and very powerful evidence of living democracy in agriculture. So another question? It's the International Institute for Environment and Development. It's in the UK, and I believe this DVD series is called Affirming Life and Diversity. But if you have any trouble finding it, we can talk afterward. I know it's that organization. Try their website. It's Andhra Pradesh. It's a Deccan Plateau. It's a Deccan, DECCAN society that is the group that is this rural women's group. And I'm very happy to help you find it. I'm sorry I don't have a better information on it, but that's where I watched the Mali farmers in the citizen jury. So who's next? Okay.
Hi, Ms. Lappé. Thank you for coming. My name is Sherry, and my sister would like for me to talk to you about food as if it was separate from politics, but since we know that isn't true, she's watching right now from Carson City, Nevada. So I'd like to talk about something else. But it's very related, actually.
She won't blame me, right?
No, she'll blame me and tell me later, I think. We both love your books, you know, especially the recipe. I'm still making sesame rice fritters. There's a lot of people who can't speak for themselves tonight in any way because they're in prison. And this brings me to, the thought is, are you familiar with the Animal Enterprise Terrorism Act? And there are people who are fighting for the planet. Talk about your heart pounding. Mine's pounding right now. People who have found ways to fight for the planet and for the inhabitants of the planet. And it's not necessarily a legal way to do it, but sometimes we have to do that. Sometimes people feel like that's the only way. And if it wasn't so powerful, why would the government have created the Animal Enterprise Terrorism Act? And there are people here in Eugene who were thrown in prison. Are you familiar with the Communication Management Unit, CMU? Well, I'll just suggest that people who aren't familiar with those things look them up, the AETA and CMUs, and please respect the people who are using less orthodox tools in the toolbox. Thank you.
Thank you. In the back?
Yes, thank you. My name's Brittany, and I'm studying to be an elementary school teacher. My question for you is, in what ways do you think we can address and challenge our society's culture of overconsumption and materialism, especially among young people?
Well, my hypothesis is that what we see as overconsumption is a symptom of a lack that comes from this premise that I described earlier, and that the premise that then leads to such concentration of corporate power that we are bombarded with this. It's a combination of being bombarded with advertising telling us that obviously, what we need to be, then playing on our insecurity, our need to be accepted, part of the tribe, and then playing on that to make us buy, and offering so little other opportunities, so other venues for meaning and establishing our status in a group by who we are rather than what we buy. So to me, I think in some ways consumerism is misdiagnosed as a cause. I think we'd be much better off to think of it as a symptom of this concentrating one rule economy that then leads to such a sense of internal insecurity. And I think that for young people, and I'm particularly acutely aware of it right now with a 3-year-old granddaughter and another 8-month-old granddaughter, but and seeing her being bombarded, and I think that the only antidote, short of this longer-term strategy of living democracy, I shouldn't say short of, as we create a living democracy, but as we do it, to make the direct connection with all of the young people, for example, who were in Youth Build, the organization that I mentioned, finding meaning through developing their own powers, their own skills, and their powers of being decision makers in this group, and So, and all of us reaching out to young people and helping them find a pathway of deeper meaning.